Good evening, I'm Elex Michaelson, and this is a San Diego 6 News special election coverage website. The numbers continue to come in, and the people say they don't want to be taxed anymore. Propositions 1A through 1E appear to be headed for defeat, and the state needs to find more than $20 billion to cut. Political analyst John Dadian is with us, but first the numbers. We begin with Proposition 1A, and let's take a look at that. That would be the Rainy Day Budget Stabilization Fund. This would have increased taxes longer on things like the Vehicle Registration Fund, the sales tax, but this voters say no, 63 to 37%. Let's go to Proposition 1B, which was dependent on 1A. This would have paid schools $9.3 billion. Voters say not this time, 60 to 40%. Proposition 1C was about borrowing from the lottery, a $5 billion borrowing, but voters turning that down, 62 to 38%. 1D was about reallocating money from children's services, similar numbers exactly to 1C, 62 to 38% here. 1E was also reallocating money, this time with mental health, going down 63 to 37%. And there is one big winner of the night. That is Proposition 1F. Look at that number. 76% of people agree on something, and that is they don't want elected officials to be paid anymore. This would change it so that elected officials cannot get a raise in a deficit year. A very big number there. 76% saying yes, 24% saying no. These results are a big victory for anti-tax activists led by Richard Ryder of the San Diego Tax Fighters. He's held multiple tea parties trying to galvanize support against the initiative. Eric Collins joins us now from the Registrar of Voters office in Kearny Mesa, where Mr. Ryder is celebrating tonight. Eric.
Thanks, Alex. Richard, I know you guys are out here celebrating tonight. Did you have any doubt that these ballot measures, at least 5 out of 6 of them, would go down in flames tonight?
Well, we had our hopes because it is a special election. You don't have the casual voters involved. People who voted in this election knew what they were doing. They understood the issue, one side or the other. It's probably the most informed electorate we've seen. We felt that was a plus for us. We were hoping for a victory. It looks like we're looking at a pretty substantial victory, and that's good for the people of California.
Do you think the voters basically said, look, this is the legislature's problem. They got us into this mess. Let's have them get us out of this mess. Don't put it on the voters?
Well, one thing that the voters understood is it was the legislature who put these measures on the ballot, which tells you right away which way you need to vote in most cases. More important, I found that this is a very sophisticated vote. Instead of voting no on everything, which is oftentimes what we see in these elections, the voters were smart enough to recognize that 5 of these measures need to be voted down. The 6th, Prop 1F, not very important, but all of a sudden they voted correctly for that measure, and that shows a level of sophistication by the voters that you don't normally see in these elections.
So what happens next? The governor would have voters think that 40,000 inmates are going to be released from prisons, teachers are going to be laid off, fire stations are going to be closed. Do you think that will materialize?
I think they will continue to try to scare us, but I think also the message is unambiguous. With this margin of victory, it's clear that what we're telling the legislature is we pay you guys a lot of money, we expect you to control spending, stop raising taxes, and I think only because they have to, because they're running out of options, they'll start to do their job. Fits and starts maybe, but they will start to do their job.
All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate it. Alex, we're going to send it back to you now and the webcast.
All right, Eric, thank you. Thank you so much. And back with John Dadian now, and he's talking about how hard it now might be to become a state legislator. That job just got a lot more difficult. Being the governor just got a lot more difficult. What do they do? Lockdown, and how do they figure out the solution?
Well, that's it. I mean, you said how to figure out solution. They're looking at a number $20 billion. That is real money, and it is going to be very, very tough. These cuts are going to be painful. It's as simple as that. I do believe that it is some scare tactics. I know think they're going to let the prison doors swing open per se, but they are going to do some things that people are actually going to feel. The average man and woman on the street are going to feel these cuts here in the next couple months.
What kind of specifics do you think on that?
Oh, everything, literally everything's on the table, because when you're talking about a number as big as $20 billion, there's nothing that you can't have on the table. We are talking about criminal justice system. We are talking about education. We are possibly talking about health and mental health. I mean, we're going to have some people on the streets that possibly shouldn't be there.
Well, you know, we see Richard Ryder, and some people might say that this is a wave of anti-government, anti-tax type of situation here, that they're creating momentum with those tea parties. Do you buy into that? Do you think that this is some sort of shift or real significant long-term message in California politics, or maybe just kind of a short-term, this is where we're at right now?
No, I think it is a very possibility of definite that this could be the wave. There's a couple of things going on. First of all, we saw recently on the national stage these tea parties. So it's not just California. However, California usually is the bellwether and usually is the innovator that starts it off. And I think that's what you saw in this election tonight. The Tea Party, what went on nationally, is now you see in the state of California really taking a one-step level, saying, go ahead and make your drastic cuts. We can't be taxed anymore.
Although interesting that President Obama is so popular at the exact same time, where his programs are a lot more about spending programs and in some ways, some would say, raising taxes on the rich at least. But you know, the question about California is, it is a lot more complicated. The biggest state in the union, there's a lot more restriction on it. There's more proposition possibilities. There's more limits on the legislature in terms of their flexibility in doing the budget. The Economist has an article out right now saying that our state is ungovernable. Do you buy into that?
Pretty close, absolutely, and it's been that way for a little while. Mr. Ryder made an interesting point about that the people saw it through because it was the legislature that put this on the ballot. I would take it one step further and say because it was the legislature that put it on the ballot, California, as you mentioned, is very unique in the system of government, and they have this initiative process, which goes back to our progressive roots from Hiram Johnson. The difference is if the people would have put it on the ballot, you would have had a built-in base. You didn't have that with these propositions. Good. That's a good reason why they went down in flames.
But now the question is, of course, what happens next? Is there going to have to be some real dramatic change? We've heard a talk about marijuana, which before was maybe something that would have been a joke, but the governor in recent weeks saying maybe let's have that debate if these go down. Other things that could raise a lot of money, same-sex marriage would raise some revenues. I mean, there are things out there. Do you think that this might cause things to happen that maybe we never thought would happen before?
Absolutely. I do think I would go as far as to say that we're possibly on the edge of an economic revolution. I was talking just this afternoon with a gentleman, very prominent in the Republican Party, would be considered by any standards very conservative, and he was talking about the legalized marijuana issue in the sense that perhaps it's time. I was amazed to hear him say that, but that is kind of a bellwether, I see.
And an interesting confluence of events, the same time as the Mexican drug wars, too, and this dramatic, intense budget shortfall. Maybe marijuana could actually be happening, which is interesting. You know, a big question, though, is what's going to happen to city governments. A lot of them are worried. Many are concerned that money is going to come from the cities, but Mayor Sanders is saying not from San Diego without a fight.
It appears the state of California, the governor and the legislature is going to try to steal money from San Diego. We intend on being very vigorous in our defense of city money because our taxpayers pay for that for public safety, for park and rec, for libraries, and we don't think that because the state's gotten itself into troubles that they should come in and steal the money that we have locally.
Mayor Sanders earlier today, do you foresee the city about to lose some money here? I mean, what type of things would you imagine?
Oh, I absolutely see that the state will try. I will say quite honestly that with Mayor Sanders, unlike his predecessor, he's a very active, progressive mayor that, and with his mentality, he's a former cop, let's be honest.
Right.
So he is literally manning the wall with his arms ready to defend his city. I think that's what's going to be needed. You're going to see we have a very strong board of supervisors. County funds also are at jeopardy. The state, again, they keep looking at this $20 billion. It's got to come from somewhere, and of course, some of the local governments do have money, so of course they're going to try to raid it.
But is there anything in San Diego that is an especially big target right now that should be really worried?
Everything. I think one of the big targets would be if they start letting out prisoners on the state level, well, that trickles down, and these people start getting arrested in our local jails, and that'll build up that population. So it is, to use a Ronald Reagan economic term, it'll be a trickle-down theory, everything from criminal justice system to the education system to the health system.
Do you think that more people might start getting more involved when they see these cuts happening? Because we saw turnout so low today, people not that interested, thinking, you know, I'd rather care about Dancing with the Stars or that other show on that other network that's happening tonight. Do you foresee that changing now and maybe more activism.
I don't. I really don't. And again, Mr. Ryder made an interesting point. One thing you see about special elections is the people who do show up usually are more well-informed. And when we're talking about it, I'm assuming a good portion of the people who voted today actually read their ballot completely, etc., which you really don't see a lot in general elections.
All right, so final thoughts or lessons learned from tonight?
Lessons learned is that this battle is far from over. The governor's going to have a very rough last year and a half. He has about a year and a half left to do in office. It's going to be very tough. If you're a state legislator right now in the Assembly and Senate, you're not having fun.
Yeah, exactly. Well, it'll be interesting to watch what happens next, and great to always have you as a guide. Look forward to continuing our conversations with you, John. Thank you very much. Thank you for being with here all night long, and we're asking you to share your comments on this election with us through Facebook and Twitter. Go to there to find out. Also get continuing coverage, SanDiego6.com. Click Special Election, 11 at 11. And tomorrow morning, our man, John Dadian, on San Diego 6 News in the Morning. He never wants to leave this place. We appreciate having you, John. For now, thank you all for being with us on this election night. I'm Elex Michaelson, reporting for San Diego 6 News.